So with it being about 3 months since the last actively dropped case was removed from the active drop pool, and with very specific patterns or at least rough guidelines that Valve likes to follow when it comes to removing the next case, we should be able to narrow down the suspects that are most likely to leave in the next rotation.
And now for our Counter-Strike report. New York's very own Mike Water.
So let's walk down their guidelines, let's see what defines their guidelines, and come to a relatively educated conclusion about what we can expect to get removed next. And we can take a very educated guess, because what they're removing is not random, but it is based on a few factors, and those factors are weighted differently. But there is one that isn't quite obvious that has defined all of their decision making since CS2 has been released, and yet it is the least commonly talked about. But we'll save that one for later. The first mechanic is that a case leaves when a new case enters, or a terminal. The last two, for example, were Fracture and Recoil. Fracture was removed on September 10th when the Genesis terminal was released and introduced, and in March when the Dead Hand terminal was released, the Recoil case was also removed. Another mechanic that relies on a 6-month schedule, so keep that in mind. We can expect the next terminal to come out in about September. And because the buying a case before it gets removed relies so heavily on flipping it the day it gets removed and not holding it to infinity, the timeline isn't necessarily too much of a big deal here, because regardless, your timeline may increase a little bit, but it's pretty much a guaranteed play once it does get removed in order to flip it. That's why if you really want to cover all of your bases, you should be allocating evenly across all actively dropped cases. Once it gets removed, flip it, reinvest into the older ones. So we got that down. We should expect it in September or later, probably not before. And 2, what's their criteria for moving it out? Well, the first 2 criteria, which we've covered before, seem to be weighted between how long the case has been in the pool and how much it is opened within the pool. A lot of people seem to think that older automatically means it's getting removed first. One look at the armory, train, overpass. Some people probably have PTSD from that, not me, bitch. And we also have precedents from the actively dropped cases as well. It's not just exclusive to the armory. The Fracture case was released in 2020. Yet despite that, the Snakebite case was removed before it, despite it being out 2 years after the Fracture case. The Fracture case moved cases and keys, people bought it, Valve made money from it, so they had no reason to remove it. So while it does seemingly have something to do with it, and I doubt Fracture was opened that much less when it was subsequently removed when the Genesis terminal came out, it isn't the end-all be-all. Don't just look at the oldest case and assume it's going next. And while Genesis probably isn't opened all too much anymore, as it doesn't have a glove offering and it's now not the newest terminal, it's also hard to gauge the terminals on their lonesome, especially when it comes to openings. Valve makes significantly more revenue on a per purchase basis, right? If you buy a $300 AK Oligarch, that's the equivalent of around 120 keys. So we can't really equate cases and terminals. We don't really know how they're going. We can imagine Genesis is not all too popular, and it could get a little bit murky here, right? Because who knows how popular Genesis is. And the one piece of criteria we were speaking about earlier is the model of the weapon. And despite nobody really talking about this, it seems to be what's guiding all of their movements in the actively dropped cases and pools so far. And that's that they want to get rid of CSGO model weapons from being dropped further in the game. It makes sense generally, but I don't know like their reasoning behind it like far too much. Maybe it's just too many different models you have to load into the game. I don't know. And obviously this doesn't apply to the armory because everything in it is CS2, because everything in it is native to CS2, right? There's nothing from CSGO. It's a CS2 era, store. So there's nothing in it from CSGO, therefore they removed stuff that's from CS2. So ignore the armory when it comes to this, we're just talking about the active drops. But take a look at what they did to the active drop pool. If you don't believe me, skins.com is the newest sponsor on our channel. They have just released a P2P trading platform looking to compete with the best players in the space. If you don't want to wait that long, they do have an insta-sell feature on the site in which the rates are the best I've seen, just straight up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And with the deals you're getting on skins.com, you could start your position basically up 20 to 25%. Try out skins.com and be a part of the future of CS2 skin trading. When it comes to this, we're just talking about the active drops. But take a look at what they did to the active drop pool, if you don't believe me, in pretty much over the last year or so. From the actively dropped weapons, of course, Lake, Bank, Dust 2, Safe House, Inferno, Nuke 2018. Probably missing one, but all of those were removed and replaced with the new CS2 era Boreal Radiant Ascent, Harlequin Achroma collections. Now, all cases except for Recoil at the time were from CSGO, so it's a little bit unfair, but Recoil, Snakebite, Fracture, all gone in CS2. And we were on stream discussing what we thought the next Arabesque collection in the Armory was going to be, and at the time we thought could be Dust 2, could be Mirage, could be Anubis, but that was of course before the Souvenir update came out, in which they discontinued all map collections. Not only that, they discontinued the need for future map collections because you could put those stickers on whatever gun you want, right? Do you really need an Arabesque collection to be Dust 2 2026? Why would you confine yourself to making a Dust 2 collection when you can make a general Arabesque collection? Then you can have people who watch the major make souvenirs from Dust 2, Mirage, Anubis, and then put it on the Arabesque collection. So we have that A, and thus Dust 2, Mirage 2021, Vertigo, Anubis, Nuke, Inferno, Ancient, and Train 2025 all discontinued. All of those except for Train 2025, of course, because it's in the Armory, were CSGO model era weapons. But since we were having that argument and debate, we were kind of confused at what they were going to remove, right? Dust 2, Mirage, and Anubis all used CSGO era weapons, so we were really confused as to what was going to go next. But I think this confirmed the fact that they're trying to get rid of CSGO era weapons completely. So Genesis, Dead Hand, and Kilowatt, I'm pretty sure are going to be safe with this rotation. Doubly so, it looks like they're replacing cases with terminals insofar as the actively dropped cases. So that's another reason why I don't think Genesis and Dead Hand leave. Dead Hand's definitely not going. Genesis, I guess, would have the better chance of going out of the two. But the fact that it uses CS2 era weapons, it's relatively new. It's still not even a year old. It will be a year old in the next rotation, I guess. And it has a different revenue model. Therefore, we can't really base it off of openings anymore. It kind of just seems like a higher risk play. Therefore, maybe if you put money into it, you put a little bit less. They are cheap right now anyway, I guess. So we'll eliminate Genesis and by proxy, Dead Hand. And that leaves Kilowatt, Revolution, and Dreams and Nightmares. Now, unlike last time, this is a much tougher decision. Dreams and Nightmares is definitely losing steam when it comes to openings, right? It used to be the strongest performer by far, and now it's sort of dead even with the other two cases. But I don't know if it's completely exclusively to the fact that it's getting older, right? It's really only a year older than Revolution, maybe even less than that. But more so due to the fact that it's just simply more expensive. So if you receive the Dreams and Nightmares case from a drop, you're more likely to sell it than open it. And B, when you go to open a case on the open market, you're more likely to buy the Revolution case or only have the budget to open a Revolution or Kilowatt case, as opposed to opening a Dreams and Nightmares case. So the stats aren't completely equal. There are variables involved, and the fact that it offers knives is something we cannot ignore. Currently, the actively dropped cases and terminals offer the Kukri knife from Kilowatt, second generation of gloves from Revolution, the Spectrum knives and Gamma finishes from Dreams and Nightmares, nothing from Genesis, and fourth generation, the new gloves from the Dead Hand collection. Now, if anything, that's more of a case for Dreams and Nightmares staying than it is going, right? The third generation of gloves have now been completely discontinued with Recoil gone, and yet second generation is still in. There's only 2 cases for second generation as opposed to the 3 for the third generation, but still doesn't really make too much sense in my head. And the fact that there's a second generation of gloves in the active pool and the fourth generation kind of just seems like a misstep in terms of having competition available for the fourth generation, which you just released right here for cheap. So if you remove that, you probably increase demand for Dead Hand gloves. And also, if you remove Dreams and Nightmares, you only offer the Kukri knife in the active pool. And on top of this, Dreams and Nightmares has a different revenue schedule. If you're not privy to that, Valve released a competition in which players submitted submissions for the Dreams and Nightmares cases. The winners got a flat fee, and they don't make a percentage of each key bought, which defines the revenue structure of every other case, including Kilowatt, including Revolution. So evidence would point to Revolution going, but I'd still say it's like 60-40 Revolution, Dreams and Nightmares. So I would accumulate money-wise in those percentages, right? $60 Revolution, $40 Dreams and Nightmares, and then like $20 Genesis, Kilowatt, just in case. I'm currently focusing on the factory new skins in Genesis, because in time, I think those are going to be bangers. But that's more something to talk about in a future video instead. So yeah, it's definitely much harder than the last rotation, but we can make an educated guess. It's probably going to be between those two. Obviously, have yourself exposed to the other ones in a little bit of a, have yourself exposed to the other ones in a smaller manner, but that also doesn't matter. Since these are higher risk, there'll be higher reward. So putting less money into it doesn't really matter because the reward will probably be higher because there's less people accumulating those currently. But I think we captured it from all angles and are making our most best educated guess. Dreams and Nightmares is losing steam, but it does offer a higher case price, which Valve makes 15% more per purchase. It has high ticket knives that wouldn't exist or be all discontinued if they remove it at this point. So it is a little bit weird. I just thought about this. Fuck. Fever case exists. I don't know if, I feel like the butterfly knife kind of succeeds all fever case knives, but that isn't something to discount actually. I don't know. I think the gloves situation is worse though, because they're both actively dropped. Ah, fuck. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Peace.